And when we moved, and we lived on Church Road at the time, so when we moved away, Florence was elected by me to be the other person that ran the school, and she and Priscilla Greenhouse worked together, and that kindergarten lasted for about 20 years.
And what was the name of this again? Because my camera cut out. Actually,
Christopher Robin Kindergarten.
Very good.
It was downstairs in the Congregational Church.
fantastic. Yes, and?
I went to that kindergarten.
Yeah.
And when I brought my now husband, and he moved in with me because we decided to live in sin for a couple of years before, I told him that there is one rule if he was going to live with me, and that is that he had to vote. I didn't have to tell him how to vote, but he had to vote. And he said, that's fine, I'm voting. So it was voting day, and we went down, and Flo was registering people, and I said, oh, here we go. And I said, this is my boyfriend Ted Donovan. She said, oh, here's a card, go and vote. He said, you don't need anything more from me? And she said, I had her in kindergarten and I taught her to be honest.
That's great. Anybody else have a memory get triggered?
I had, when Florence said something about the little stamps, my father was in World War II, and there's many pictures in the stamps and the booklets and the coins and the steel pennies, and yeah.
Now, I listen to those Catholics tell stories. I know that you also had some other things get triggered about what it was like in town. Not just maybe what Florence said, but you can share your own in these little breaks too. Any other school memories for those of you that were in school here? Can you remember all of your teachers?
Jack has something.
Yeah, go ahead. You want to say something?
Actually, I moved here, we moved up here in 1936, and I went to that little red brick building across from the Congregational Church. And that was grades 1 through 6. One room, one teacher. And then when we went into 7th grade, we took the local B&M bus down into Suncook Village for 7th and 8th grade.
Where?
So then we went back to Pembroke Academy.
Where in the village? Where were those two grades in the village?
I can't, it's hard to tell you where they were. I mean, I don't know the streets or anything where they were, but I could show you.
Yes, sir. Behind you there. Yep.
I was the last 6th grade, graduated from that little run school.
Oh, you were?
And so was my husband. After that, they closed.
Listen to everybody. I didn't come to live here until 1950. But Jan told about going to the little schoolhouse, and it had a white fence around it, white rail fence, and it wasn't very big. But if you got the ball pitched to you and you got it over the fence, that was a home run.
Those are the important things to remember. What constituted as a home run? Oh my heavens, even Keith is coming tonight. I see him coming in the door. Florence.
We could get on the B&M bus at Pembroke Street and Broadway, like right in front of our house, to go to Concord for 25 cents. If I wanted to go to Manchester, I had to get over by the park sign, and that was 50 cents.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Times have changed.
Or if you lived in the village, you could pick it up in the village across the street from Whitney's on one side, and then across the street from Gordon's.
Marie, go tell Keith to come back in. Tell him I say so too. Thanks, Chet. Any other memories? I'm going to call on you, Bob. Yep.
On the other side of the river, during the war, I remember vaguely that Larry and I were in the same class. About the nuns, because food was scarce, everybody had a V gun, a victory gun, you know. So they used to, at least once a day, they used to provide us with, remember when saltines came in a four-piece pack? Well, they used to have one of those, slather some peanut butter on it, ignite the real oily stuff. And, you know, and then they gave us a little, I think it was a quarter of a pint or a half a pint of milk. Not that I'll always remember because I tried chocolate milk for the first time, and when I drank it, it was sour.
And you never got a taste for chocolate milk.
That was during the Second World War. Of course, then we had to have a lot of air raid training, you know, down in the basement and all this stuff. And I remember some of the men, like my dad, with a civil defense helmet, one of these little tin things, and a billy club, half the headlights on the cars, black top with tape to, you know, patrol.
Yeah.
Because when the lights were out, when they had a blackout, these people kept the peace in the area. Why, those were the years. And then when the war was over, VE Day, I don't know if anybody here remembers the parade we had. I think we must have had about 5 miles of parade, singing, "Hail, hail, the gang's all here."
Oh,
The Suncook band leading, that's another thing, the
Yeah.
Suncook band.
yeah.
You know, I belonged to the band in 54, 55. But my dad was a member before that, and that, of course, again, that band dates a long way back. That dates back to the Civil War.
Wow.
So
It was a continuous from the Civil War?
pretty much so. Well, it started, it was a spin-off of the Nevers Band in Concord.
Yep.
Then they started this band. And according to the page drum, that's right, the date was on there, just around the Civil War time.
Yeah.
And, right, and that was one of the other things. I remember concerts at the other town hall. Remember before that burnt down? You used to have a street fair.
Yep.
The bandstand was over in the corner.
Right.
Somebody, I don't remember who it was, made the best tasting homemade root beer. Anyway, that I remember too. And we had one here, we had one that, there was someone else in Pembroke. Well, of course, the VFW and, you know, then the Catholic Church. And those were, you know, our summers were pretty nice at the time. Pembroke State Park, like over there, swim, good stuff.
Thank
But
you.
I'm sure, you know, some of these other fellas have been.
Larry.
The album over here, that's the beautiful bar. I got some 1890 or whatever, under Suncook band. The album.
Okay.
You know, I got that from John Burroughs.
Wow. Wow. Fantastic.
I think it was called the Suncook Union Cornet Band.
Right.
Wow. Yes, sir.
I remember I was in
Can you
1950,
say your name so we can,
Cherry Vincent,
Good.
moved to Allenstown, born in Pembroke, actually born in Concord Hospital. My mom lived, she was a domestic, and she lived with a family on Pine Street in Pembroke till I was 3, and then we moved. My father was in the Merchant Marines, and we moved to Manchester till I was 12, I believe. In 55, we moved back to Suncook. And all my memories are in Allenstown, except for Pembroke is where we would come and date all the beautiful girls from Pembroke. One of them is here. Still looks pretty young. But what I remember most is the what's called the Armin DuPont School now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was built from boxcars from the B&M Railroad.
Really?
We would go up to Concord, they would tear down the boxcars and the boards from the boxcars. Mr. Burville, I believe.
The gym was, yeah, the gymnasium.
The gymnasium.
Wow.
It was all B&M boxcar for the framing, the floor, and everything for that,
Wonderful.
for that building.
Wow, that's cool. That is great. I'm going to move on to our next keynoter, and I now get to make the apology all over again because it really upset him, and I really didn't mean to upset him, but I caught him outside and I told him I really was the one to blame. for misspelling his name. And of course, not only did I misspell his name, I told him the start time was 7 o'clock, which is why. So this is why I'm going off the Historic Society. So I stopped making mistakes like this. I'm going to invite Hector Eamon to come up and say whatever occurs to him to say, but you have to come put this microphone on, Hector. And if you wander around a lot, you need to take that with you too, but I'll just clip this right on you and you'll be all set to go.
Oh, good.
Then I'll move over here and be facing you.
Good evening, everybody. I thought this was going to be just a panel of people talking. I didn't expect this. But anyway, hearing that lady talking about Pembroke, I lived in Allenstown. And growing up in the 40s, well, my house was built by my grandfather, and that's where I was born, in the house. And I lived there till 1985, and then I sold and moved on. But my backyard went all the way to Heads Hill in Hooksett. It was all fields, Dykers, Hoole, I can't remember all the names of all those people, but we used to wander out there as kids, out into the fields, and there was a special spot back there, about 3 fields out. There was 3 big trees, and we used to call it the 3 Musketeers. And then we'd pack a little lunch, and on an afternoon, we'd go out there, and there was a little brook, fresh water. And on the way there, we'd walk on the railroad track, of course. There was a little spring, fresh water, spring, bubbling right out of the sand. And I remember we'd bring a little jug, mason jar or something, and we'd pick that cold, cold water. Oh, it was so good. That was, way back in we had 3 railroad tracks crossing my street alone, 3. One of them went to the mill where they had loaded and unloaded cargo. The other one went to the water tank. Do you remember a water tank with the hook? Came down, filled it with water, brought it back up. I'm not sure if it's still there, but I looked out my window in my second story, I could see it. And the third one went right under the bridge. There was a wooden bridge with wooden sides so that nobody would fall off, and it would keep the smoke out of everybody's nose and mouth as they went by. But with those 3, and then there was one further up, right where there's a station on Main Street and Ferry Street. There's 4 corners there. The train used to go right down from Pembroke, down that street, across the bridge, all the way down to God knows where in somebody's field, and then would travel up to where that, just in back of that gas station, which at that time was Croniacs. Across the street from that was our police station and fire department. Little building, but that's where it was. And then the train would stop at the Blodgett, which was next to Dr. LeBlanc's house and the Catholic Church. And then that train would ride right back past the school, in back of the school, I should say, the Catholic school and the public school, and then it would cross School Street. And then it would go across 28, and then it would go to Armin's house. Because he bought the building where they used to stop, and then it went all the way up to Pittsfield. I believe that's where the Blueberry Express used to go. Now, with all those street crossings and railroads on my street alone, not one accident ever happened. Not one. Nobody was ever hurt. But that's little railroad crossings. The Blodgett, the water tank. Oh, and we had a special thing. If you don't know too much about Allenstown, or you know where the mills are, down by the river, well, the train used to go right across those 3 bridges, and one of them came to go to Hooksett, and then not all the way to Hooksett, but halfway down there, and then back to the Blodgett. But there was a turntable where they wanted to turn the train engine around. They would come down, and there was a little cutoff there, and it would come right down. I walked over that thing a million times, going to the movies, going swimming, going downtown because on Canal Street, and we'd just, for the hell of it, just push that big iron bars. There were 2 of them, one on either end, and we'd push that, turn it around. Oh, that was so much fun. It was unbelievable. One thing that came to mind as somebody was talking here was, I remember ice deliveries for refrigerators. And one of the things that was one of my fondest memories of being a kid was when the man with the hulled corn in his little black truck came riding by, come down the street, we'd all run in the house. I don't care what we were doing. All the kids would run to the house, get their jars, get a glass, a mug, anything, a few pennies, a nickel, a dime. And if it was Friday, well, then my mother would give us a quarter or 50 cents to buy the hulled corn to put in the pea soup, because it was Friday. But we'd go out there and just look at that little old man and say, you know, I got 2 cents. And he'd put some in there, nice and cold, fresh made. It was the best thing in the world. I miss that so much. Even today, I bought cans, but it's nothing. There was an article in the paper a few years ago. I don't know if anybody of you remember that, but there was a picture of that. And they discontinued the business because they couldn't keep up with it. But he used to do it at home in his own barn. And he had his own process, but the son didn't keep it up. And I didn't like that at all. I was very mad. There was, you remember winter's horse plowing? Horses going up the sidewalks to open them up. I remember that, and I remember skiing down on the snowbanks on the other side of the road. I don't know how come I didn't hurt myself, but we did that. And in the summer, in the winter, and then we'd go to the skating rink, of course, by the school. There was a big skating rink there. Everybody used to go there in the winter. And there was, the convent would open its back doors because they had accommodations downstairs. And it was warm to put the skates on and take them off. And then they built the little warming shed, and they used to sell some candy and sodas in there and coffee. In the summer, I spent my summers swimming, would you believe, in the canal. The water was as brown as the top of this table. But it was nice and cold and refreshing, and we went there every day of the summer. And if it was one thing that I keep telling my sister-in-law and my sister, I said, one thing why we're so healthy, even today, is because of all that stuff we swam in all summer. We are now immune to everything. That accounts for long life. Let's see here. Oh, and remember going to the theater, the little movie house downtown, where Heartbreak Hotel is now? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, on Mondays, they would charge you 10, 15 cents. I can't remember what it was, but you got a free token. And then you could go on Wednesday with the token. It was free. And then on Saturday, of course, you had to pay full price again, as you did on Monday, but it was only 10 or 15 cents. And we'd go down to Neil's, little diner, buy our popcorn, our candy, and everything, and run up the stairs at the box office right there at the top of the stairs, and then there were 2 more going either way. But this was the way everybody went because they closed that front. And I remember there was a few theater productions down there too. One of them was from Canada, and that was a French production. And then there were some vaudeville type shows. And as a matter of fact, I remember, I should have brought it. There's a picture of a play or whatever it was from the early 30s. My sister was in it, and that's why we got the picture. But it was oh God, I miss that theater now. And then, of course, it became the Knights of Columbus Hall. After the fire, it was torn down and then became the hotel. Let's see here, what else? I just remember that growing up in Allenstown I don't have any bad memories. Let's put it that way. It was all fun. I remember playing games in the evening because we had street lights. I don't remember anything before 45, 46, really. I do remember the warden that you were talking about and the billy club, and I still have them at home because my father was one of the wardens. And I forgot what that billy club was. That's where it came from. But anyway, nobody locked their doors. Everybody just, I remember people walking in at midnight into our house and say, Hector, that was my dad's name. Yvonne, my mom, anybody up? Okay, off they went. And we thought nothing of it. We were just so used to it. We were all friends. We all liked each other. We all knew each other, family-wise. It was really like we were talking sometimes in the mornings. On Monday mornings, we have coffee after blood pressure. And we talk about the old days mostly. And we all say, we don't remember being poor, hungry, cold. We were always well fed. We were always warm in the house in the winter. I mean, we didn't even know that we had no money. We were poor. But all the neighbors were the same, so it made no difference to us. We were all one and the other, And I never had the feeling that, I was amongst friends all the time. And as a matter of fact, we had a neighbor who came home with a war bride, Evelyn. She came from Denmark, nicest lady in the world. She came to our house just about every day because my mom was very friendly. We never had enemies of sorts, we knew everybody and we could temper some people who were not so friendly. But, and you remember going downtown to Lammy's to have your shoes resoled or fixed instead of putting cardboard? That was a long time ago. There was a bowling alley. I don't know if you remember the bowling alley. And there was a roller skating rink. Remember that? There was one right down just by Emerson's. Laundromat is there today. And the bowling alley was up by Whitney's. And there was a staircase. I think it's still gone now. Is it still there?
Still there, but
yeah. But there was a staircase from the street. It just went down.
The Masons own that building.
Yeah, and the Masons are still there, and that was just under the barber shop. So, no bad memories at all of being. This was in the 40s. In the 50s, I went to high school, and then I went in the service, and then I came home in the 60s, and I started working, and all of a sudden, it was the 70s. Time just flew. And that's about it for me. Hope you enjoyed it. You told me about this.
Yeah, I knew you were going to do that. I could see it coming. That's fine. That was great, Hector. Thank you so much. Wow. So I could tell just watching you that any number of memories were triggered by what Hector had to share. So who wants to build on those? Yeah, please.
On the Ferry Street Bridge, Hector, for some reason I'm related maybe a fourth or a fifth cousin to somebody who married one of my other cousins. But
Incest is best.
if you had a cat and you wanted to get rid of it, you know how you get rid of a cat? And they always come back, you would call this gentleman, he would come, he would take the cat, he would put it like in a burlap bag, and you'd go to the Ferry Street crossing, and you would wait for the engine to come underneath the crossing, and you would drop the bag into the smokestack. Oh! And those cats never came back.
Anybody want to follow that one? Yeah, chat.
On the brighter side, when Hector was talking about the skating rink, I always used to, because in those days, you could make ice. You know, when people go to fire hoses, and then if you didn't have a lot of money, you would volunteer to scrape the ice after it was done. Then they would give you 10 cents so you could skate the next night, back and forth. But one of the things you used to see after Christmas is who maybe it might have been the rich family because they got brand new skates.
Yeah.
I mean, most of us, we got the used skates from hand-me-downs from your brothers and whatnot, but at Christmas time, you go the next day and somebody got them, because they're all hockey skates, except for Mr. Eman. He did a lot of figure skating, which he didn't say. He was a great figure skater in his day.
And Melvin.
And Melvin, my cousin, played, yeah, so, but that rink was open from Thanksgiving all the way to probably end of March most of the time, because we had cold winters and we could make ice from the hydrant. We've tried in the past, not that, maybe 30 years ago, we tried to make ice at the high street school. And we brought the fire truck down, we poured water, and it just wouldn't take, and then when you did get ice, it would warm up again. So with global warming, you just can't make it like that.
Yeah.
The worst thing about skating in the skating rink was the nuns would look out their windows and see who was skating with who, boy and girl. And the next day when you went to school, they were saying who was skating with who. And you know, when you're young, you just didn't.
That ended that. Larry.
Yeah, I can probably remember that, and Bob, Gerard. The Suncook Valley used to go by the school. I remember the old engine went, okay, and they used to have the screens on the engine. They would spit out embers of coal, and they would go up and set fires by the school in the back. There was one time of school that would go put a fire up.
This is like a grass fire along the tracks and stuff?
Springtime, yeah.
Wow.
We had some time off from school.
Talk about volunteer firefighters, huh?
One more.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could remember that, but my brother had this thing. Yeah, I guess he went to school with one of his brothers, I think it was his brother. Anyway, and the nun, we used to have half a day of French, half a day of English. So anyway, the nun told him he was raised in hell, yeah. And the nun told him, "Banana pot," which means to take the door. He got up, put the pins out of the door, and then they stopped him at the rectory.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody's free to chime in here on anything they remember, yep?
I have a question. The first library I remember was in Suncook Village. Was it next to the fire station?
No.
No, I mean the barber shop. Was it next to
Yeah.
that's where it was.
You had Whitney's,
Yes.
then you had the library,
Yeah.
and then you would have the barber shop,
Gloria Hill,
and
yeah.
then flower, the
Yeah.
flower shop, yeah, so.
Larry?
Wrong.
No.
The original,
No.
well, way back, he used to be the second of my ticket, he said, I ran the library. And then, anyway, this library, the town library, was on Glass Street.
It was on Glass Street.
That
Yeah,
Remember Rosette?
yeah,
Rosette?
yeah, it's TVs.
Okay. They used to have, used to be in there, they had flyers, and then from there, they went to Main Street.
I only remember Main Street.
Don't tell anybody else over there.
Is that true, Hector? You are our historian that we seek to solve all locations and libraries and everything? No? Okay, he's being quiet. Okay, Marie?
I can remember a long time ago, the skating rink was being operated as a skating rink. Didn't you put on a production one year where there was a show of some sort? And there was, I can remember there was a sleigh and they were being pulled by reindeer, and the reindeer were actually cheerleaders from Pembroke Academy with antlers. And I danced the waltz with Marcel LaSalle. I had this long dress on, and I think I was that Winter Carnival? Okay, well, I thought you were the head of that humor, but I'm giving credit to him.
No, Melvin used to run those shows too. Because I was in a procession one time and we had borrowed the uniforms from the men's at St. Joseph.
Oh, yeah.
And matter of fact, my cousin, the white guy, when we were performing Sunday night under the lights, decided he was going to throw a snowball at me. And he hit me.
And then the Catholic Church used to also have lawn parties. I remember
Yeah,
lawn
we used to
parties.
walk into that.
They had bingo and they had lights out there so you could stay out really late, like 9 o'clock.
Bob?
A couple of speakers back here said something about that they used to put on productions at the Suncook Opera House. Well, I remember that they had minstrel shows. Can't do that today, can't blacken your face today. So they had minstrel shows and it was all local people. And you'd be surprised how talented some of these people were. I seen people with broken legs dancing.
Larry?
Ron, I have advertised with this one too.
You know? Hey.
Yes.
But speaking about Main Street, I believe there used to be, between convenience stores and grocery stores, there had to be 10 or 12 in Suncook in those days. It was Rainville and Davio's. There were Cormier's Market, Dano and Vienna, First National Store.
That's just Main Street.
That's just Main Street. And then on Glass Street, there was Matavier's, there was Latender's, and Newt's Market.
And further down, you had Brassey's.
Further down, you had Brassey's. In Allenstown, you had Lamontagne Store.
That's cool.
Top of Broadway was Hillside Grocery. Hilltop Grocery. On Ferry Street was a little grocery store beyond that little bridge that Hector was talking about. On Front Street was a little place called Rosie's, in the cellar of, on the corner of High and
Front Street.
Front Street.
Next to the old police station.
Exactly. There was one there. But when you went in there, it smelled so damn musty. I mean, I wouldn't have bought a bread or anything there. And just to go back, that gas station that Hector was talking about in Allenstown, where the train went up behind it, that was Mike's Jenny Station.
Yeah.
That in a day was like Arnie's Diner and Happy Days. That's where all of us hung out.
Wow.
The
But
whole
you
bunch.
forgot, there was a store across the street from where you lived.
Yes, there was a Martell store, there used to be an Amoco station, right next to the school.
Wow.
So they were,
That's amazing.
All mom and pop, all.
Yeah.
And then you had way up on Route 28, the Mommy's.
Wow. Amazing. How'd they ever all stay in business? My God.
they did.
Yeah, Marie?
One more thing I can remember, all right, I'm remembering one thing I want to say. When we were in high school and there was a snow day, this was an excuse to gather at Lindy's Pharmacy and watch the cars get stuck on the hill. Cars on the hill.
Did you get any tips?
People were poor.
Larry?
Just for people's information, the back in town, they used to have 17 beer joints.
And the trolleys used to come from Manchester and Concord because those would dry down.
Is that right?
That Manchester and Concord would dry, so they would have trolleys.
Did you say
coming.
17 beer joints?
Oh, yeah.
My heavens. Bob?
My grandfather owned one of them. Chris owns lunch. Today, he was a real, today he'd be in jail. Because if a woman walked in there, he'd tell her, you don't belong here, go home and take care of the kids. He'd tell the guy, all right, you've had your 2 beers, get out of here and go home, take care of your kids. Today, you tell that to somebody that have you in jail the next day.
Florence, did you have something a while back, or I thought I saw your hand?
Well, Hector brought back a memory with the hulled corn. Ellery Cass lived in Epsom, and Jenny, who was next door to me on Pembroke Street, that was her cousin. So I remember Ellery really well. He always came to spend some time with Jenny when he was over here doing his peddling.
But I would see him on Front Street in Pembroke. I mean, I'm sure he went all over, but it was mostly on Front Street where I used to see him.
Yeah.
He didn't make it up to Union Street.
Yes, Marie. It is time. It's time we moved on to somebody who didn't start here as early, but the way that Hector did his talk was great. You know, he got up to about high school and then it was the 1970s. So we'll go to Armand next. And as you all know, anything relating to the railroads in town, Armand knows it. But I think he's going to talk about some other stuff too. So come on up here and we'll plug you in, Armand. Just come back around me here. Let me turn the volume down a bit.